Exodus 13. And I'm just letting you know I'm excited. I'm excited, but I got to give some context to it, okay? I got to give Exodus 13. So I just want to let you know, just give you some insight that this is flesh and bone that stands before you and that it's still a mighty great God that we serve, okay? I just want to let you know this. To give you some context, okay, so Robert gets done last week. I know I'm on chapter 13, right? So I start reading chapter 13, trying to get a sense of it, read before and after it, trying to, just how does it piece together? How's it going to flow? Kind of start looking at life, what's like work like? How does it flow? What can I pick out? You know what I'm saying? Just trying to, what is it saying? How do I feed back on this, right? So Saturday morning, I get an email, and it's a picture from he's called the director of operations for Bernhardt Textiles. Okay, so he's the cutting and sewing supervisor, and he's over all textiles and stuff. It's a picture of a test that he took. It's not going to be at work all week. Right beside it was another picture. His supervisor for cutting. They're not going to be at work all week. This happens every Wednesday that I get to stand up here, right? So I'm just like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. An area that I'm not very familiar with. Now, two of the people, that answer the emails, that make the phone calls, they're not going to be there, right? Then I get into work Monday, and I found out that the only lady who programs and sets up the programs for the two machines that we have that cut the fabric, she ain't going to be at work all week. It reaches to a point where you're just like, this is going to be great. You had to do that. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. Luckily we had a lady there that could fill in. I had a lead man on first floor. He's out all week. Wife had a baby. Then I had a lead guy for upholstery on second floor. He just come back today. So all of this chaos, all this stuff, I got my watch set at 20,000 steps. I hit it by lunch, I'm just like this. And I know I got to prepare for tonight, right? And that's weighing heavy on me too, because I don't take this lightly. Now I know this, this is weighing heavy on me, so just so you know, this is flesh that stands before you, right? So I'm like, okay, you know what, Monday, whenever I get home, God, I'm going to get in this thing. I'm going to figure out what this thing's got to say. I get home, right? Monday, I get there. There's an extra car parked in the driveway. We got company. Okay, Lord, tomorrow night, Tuesday, whenever I get home, it's going to be me and you. We're going to dig in this. We're going to find out what this has got to say. I get home Tuesday, and I am literally, emotionally, and mentally a blob. It's just been emails, phone calls. He said, she said, this won't, why do they do, who's parking? It was just all day long. And I was just like, I never come home and take a nap doing the work. And I got home and I stretched out, and it was just immediately, just like that. I was done. Get up Wednesday, get up this morning. I'm like, Lord, I got sometime or another. I got to have something to bring. And the whole time, it's like in the back of my mind, I'm trying to discern if it's me hoping or if it's God actually saying, remember when I told Moses, I will put the words in your mouth? And I'm like, boy, I really hope that's you. And I hope that's not me, some wishful thinking. I hope that's really you. Because I'm just saying, life happens, man. We make good intention. We really try to plan and try to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so finally today at 3:15, upholstery was gone. Cutting and sewing was still there. I had an hour to myself, and I was like, here we go. And it was just boom, boom, boom. I'm like, will you hold on just a minute? Just give me just 5 seconds. I can't even finish this. Will you just, and I knew it's like I just sat back, and I'm like, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for that just little bit of petting. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for coming through. Thank you for looking in on me and the flesh that I am. And being graceful to me, showing grace on me. I said, even to the, I'm saying, so what you're getting right now was within the last 4 hours. then it's all fresh. Okay, that's why I'm just like, I feel petted. I feel petted, and I'm just tickled to death about that. So let's look at Exodus chapter number 13. Let's read through this chapter. It's not a very long chapter. We're going to be looking at, as we go through this, purifying the house, power displayed, protection from self, and promises kept. Starting in verse number 1, it says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses." And just a little something. 28 times between chapter 3 and this verse right here. 28 times. "And the Lord spoke unto Moses." 28 times. "And the Lord spake unto Moses. And the Lord spake unto Moses. And the Lord spake unto Moses." Not one time. Not similar to what he did with Noah. Right? We're all different. We're all going to hear different ways. We all got different roles. We all got different things that we got to do. Some of us can get it just that one time. And he said back, roll. Sometimes there's other little details. There's other little planes like, I need you to move here. Okay, then you got to move here. And then it's just being tender. It's just being open. It's just having discernment. That's all it is. That's all it is. What is it now, Lord? What is it now? 28 times. Verse number 2, it says, "He sanctify unto me all the firstborn. Whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine." And Moses said unto the people, "Remember this day in which ye came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand of the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day came ye out in the month of Abib. And it shall be, whenever the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, Jebusites, which he sware unto your fathers to give ye, a land flowing with milk and honey, thou shalt keep this service in this month. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and then as the 7th day shall be a feast unto the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and there shall no leavened bread be seen with thee, neither shall be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters." Meaning you can't have it, and I want it in the house. Get it out. For 7 days, get it out. "Thou shalt show thy son in that day, saying, This is done because of that which the Lord did unto me, which I came forth out of Egypt. It shall be for a sign unto thee upon thine hand, for a memorial between thine eyes, that the Lord's law may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand hath the Lord brought thee out of Egypt. Thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in his season from year to year. And it shall be, whenever the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, as he sware unto thee, to thy fathers, and give it to thee, thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that open the matrix," another word for the womb. "Every firstling that cometh from the beast, thou shalt, which thou hast, the males shall be of the Lord's. Every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb, and if thou shalt not redeem it, then thou shalt break his neck. And all the firstborn of man among the children shalt thou redeem." Now, did you hear how that was just kind of thrown in there? I mean, I'm reading through this, I'm like, okay, we redeem it, and then we're killing, we're breaking its neck. How is that? Why would you not redeem it? I mean, if I either got to redeem it or I got to kill it, right? We'll come back to that. Just a little wet there. "And it shall be, whenever thy son ask thee in time to come, saying, What is this? Thou shalt say unto him, By strength of hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of bondage. And it came to pass when Pharaoh would hardly let us go, that the Lord slew all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man, firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all that openeth the matrix, being males, but all the firstborn of my children I redeem. It shall be for a token upon thine hands, for the frontlets between thine eyes, and for by strength out of hand the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt. It shall come to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, God led them not the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, Lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, they return to Egypt. But God led the people through the way of the wilderness, the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up, harnessed out of the land of Egypt. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. He had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you will carry my bones away from thence. They took their journey from Succoth and camped in Etham, the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them, and by day in a pillar of cloud led them the way, and by night a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. So as we're looking at this, I mentioned the first things that we're going to look at is the purifying of the house. So as we get into verse number 6, it's we're talking about the 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread. And as we know, leaven in Scripture is a type of sin. We would think about this now probably like yeast. It's what made it grow. And as Sean mentioned Sunday morning, you use a little, if you ever bake bread, I've never done it, but I've just seen it done. And my wife would, do the little starter kits with bread. And, you add yeast and you check it the next day and you just shake it and it just keeps growing and keeps growing. It's similar to that. It's a type of that. And if you remember, we've just come through the Passover. So we've just come through the blood. And now there's this purification that needs to happen within the house. The purifying is always followed by the blood. The blood is always what leads first. We want to try to be purified before the blood. We want to try to make our way. We want to try to show how that we can purify ourselves. Right? We want to follow our own laws and our own regulations. We want to do things outside of the book so that we can have a hand in it, or I do. This is how I do it. When I say we, I'm pretty much saying we. I want to have a hand in it because I want to be able to take some of the credit for what I've done, how that I've purified myself. It's got to start through the blood. That's the way it's always going to start. We're never going to go against the way that He has this set up. This is always going to be the way. There's no deviating from it. He says in verse number 9, it shall be a sign unto thee. Let me step back and I want to catch something real quick. We'll get back to it. In verse number 8, notice how he says, and I have this underlined in my Bible, and thou shalt show thy son in that day. If you look at verse number 14, it says basically the same thing, and it shall be when thy son asks thee. Now basically just talking about our children there, and I'm going to come back to that. I just wanted to point it out before I forget it. In verse number 9, it shall be unto thee in thine hand, for the Lord's law may be in thy mouth, and with a strong hand the Lord hath brought thee out of Egypt. Now if you'll go over to verse number 16, it says basically the same thing, and it shall be for a token upon thine hand. So twice he's mentioned this. He's like, this is a memorial. This is something you're going to do. This is something you're going to do every year. This is something that I want you to follow. There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I don't want you to forget. He mentions, he's like, whenever your children come up, when they start asking you, hey, why are we doing this unleavened bread thing? Why are we doing? Okay, I want to tell you why we're doing this. Here's why we're doing this, because this reminds us of whenever we come out. This is the way that we remember this. This is the way that we memorialize this. And I'm thinking, whenever when that firstborn comes up, you know how kids are, 2, 3, 4 years old. And this is probably the first time that they have any memory, and we're going out there. And by the way, what in my opinion, I wasn't able to find commentary on this, but where it talks about breaking the neck, if you're not going to redeem it, then you need to break its neck. The only thing, and there may be some wonderful scholars in here that come, but the only thing, like I said, I couldn't find a reason why. So I'm just thinking if something happened, and this firstborn male of a donkey, and whenever it was born, somehow it was deformed. That's the only reason, and I may be wrong, and if, ask somebody, but that's the only thing, because I had to reconcile this some way within my mind. And I was like, this is the only reason I can think of, because why would I not redeem it? If I'm going to be able to use this animal for some reason, if it's going to prosper me, then why would I not redeem it? Why would I break its neck? That would be the only thing that I can come up with. It's Randall Norman's version. There will be copies available for out here in the next few weeks. So I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking even in starting in verse number 12, and talks about setting apart the firstborn, those that open the womb. And 14, he says, to thy son, you'll show thy son. And then he even tells them what to say. This is what you'll say, by strength of hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of bondage. It came to pass when Pharaoh could hardly let us go that the Lord slew all of the firstborn in the land of Egypt. He's telling the mom and dad, or he's telling the father, pretty much this is where he's talking to the father, but the principle is for us to teach our children, to tell our children these things. That's the main principle. And so I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about, he says, whenever you get into the land, here on this month, Abib, which we learned last time that Robert was up, that this was probably late March, right? Now, as I was reading in this, and you may have discovered the same thing, this Abib or Aviv, it may be in your Bible, it means green ear. And basically what that is saying is this is the time of whenever the corn would show a green ear. It's harvest time. That's what this is saying right here. This is that month, right? And then you start thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute. So up until this time, things is nasty and things is terrible. And the time that we about to go out, all of us all out, we're bringing flocks, we're bringing herds, and he's going to take us out right at the time whenever everybody can eat, when all these animals, all these things can eat. That's just how the Lord plans things. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just by happenstance. It wasn't, it's just, hey, man, we probably need to get these guys going. We're coming up on harvest time. Let's let them roll. No, it says to the day. It says to the day this was planned. So I'm thinking, why are we doing this over and over? Why do we celebrate this over and over? And I'm just, like I say, I'm just trying to get into the mind of, we can easily do this because we can think about anniversaries, we can think about Valentine's Day, we can think about all these, other things that we celebrate. They're not hearing this. They don't do that. Most of them probably don't even know how old they are because they didn't celebrate their birthdays, right? So I'm trying to get into their mind. And I'm trying to, okay, why is this so important? What would I be hearing if I was hearing this? Right? And so I'm thinking about it from my own personal standpoint of, obviously, I need this every year. I need to be reminded every year. This is why God has set this up, because he wants to keep this right here on my hands, and he wants to keep it in my eyes for every year. But the two things that show up there is how we teach our children these things. He's like, be sure when your son, they're going to ask. When they do ask, here's what they say. They're going to come up, and you need to be able to show them. So I'm thinking of a couple different things here. I'm thinking, number one, there's some things that they're not going to get when we first try to tell them, right? So I'm thinking, a little 3-4-year-old kid, first time sees dad out there, and he cuts the neck of that lamb. It's like, Dad, why are you doing that? He's like, well, son, let me tell you, we was in Egypt, and we was in bondage. And a 2-year-old kid's going to say, what's bondage? Well, bondage is whenever you're slaves. Well, Dad, what's slaves? You just get into that role with a very young child where you're just like, you just end up listen, bro, this is just what we do, okay? Next year, I will explain it to you, I promise. But for right now, just hold the basin, okay? I could see it being some of that. And then as the kids are older, and you begin to explain it to them. I can remember, it's been several years ago, probably 12 years ago or something like that, maybe longer than that, 12, 15 years ago. We went out to eat, and we went out to this Japanese restaurant. David's probably 3 or 4 years old, right? And there's this thing of Buddha, right? And it's got like this little base in there, and you pitch quarters into it, right? And I remember David, and David's like, hey, Dad, can I have a quarter? He just wanted to throw the quarter in. I was like, Dad, we don't really, this is kind of a different belief than ours, and we don't really do that, we don't really. And he's just like, okay, can I have a quarter? Yeah. And that's what he's like, yeah, bro, here you go. You can have a quarter. And there was one time where, I was going to be just really spiritual with my daughter, right? With Macy. She's our youngest. And from the time she was about 3 to 5 years old, really thought that she was Satan's daughter. Me and her had a lot of head clashing, to the point that it really started to bother me. I'm not afraid to say it. There was some corporal punishment. There's some times that the hand come out and the belt come off, right? And it would happen pretty often to the point where it would bother me, and I'd be like, Randall, let's just stop and think about this. Now, if she'd have said that, or if she'd have done this, you've told her this 17 times and she's still doing it, you can't hear, you can feel. If you hadn't whipped her yesterday and she done what she did today, would you whip her today? Yep. Okay, we're good. I was fine with it. My conscience was clear. But I'd heard this story, and I thought, you know what? She's probably, she's getting to the age where I think she can receive this, right? So, and I don't remember what it was that she did, but she knew that if she did it, she was going to get a whipping. Just know, we'd already set the standard for that, Joel, right? So it's like, Mike, let's roll. Go back into the bedroom. She sits down there, and I said, you know that you deserve a whipping for this. He said, yeah, I know. It's like, that's the penalty that I set for what you just did, that you're going to get a whipping. She's like, yeah, Daddy, I know. And I took my belt off, folded it up, and I handed it to her. I said, the penalty for what you did was a whipping. But I'm going to show you what Jesus did for us. And I laid down across the bed, and I said, go ahead, don't. I said, I'm going to take your punishment for you. And she hit me. And I was like, well, okay. You must have been really mad about the last time because that hurt. Put my belt back on, left there. Man, that left an impact. I got a hold of her on that one. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. We're back in the doggone bedroom. And guess what she's doing? She's asking for the belt. I said, no, ma'am, it don't work like that. This is back to you now. So I say that because there's times where there's lessons, there's things that's just going to have to be taught over and over and over. There's conversations that we're going to have just over and over. And each time they get better, each time they get stronger, each time they get more in depth, each time there's a little bit of that grasping from it. We see that in the purification. We see this in the power displayed in 15. It says, and it came to pass when Pharaoh could hardly let us go, that the Lord slew all of the firstborn. Now, when I'm hearing that, and I'm thinking of a child, and I'm thinking of a parent that is talking this into their child, and I'm thinking, man, how he must love me. We was in bond. We was in this place where this guy said, it ain't happening. You ain't leaving. But the God that we serve said, oh, yes, we are. And I'm going to show you, son. I'm killing folk for you. I'm killing people for you. This is what it took to release you. This is what I want you to see. This is why this is the memorial. This is why the firstborn, because all of the firstborn was killed. Every time you take that firstborn, you're going to be reminded of what God did to bring you out from where you are. And it's those things whenever, and I'm not trying to, when we talk about sharing these things with our kids and doing this stuff and trying to explain it, we don't have to have, a doctrinal degree. We're not working on a thesis. It doesn't have this great dissertation. Listen, I'm reading through this, and over here in verse number 18 it says, but God led the people about through the way of the wilderness, the Red Sea. He took them a way that they weren't necessarily supposed to go. See, if they'd have went straight, from what I understand, we're looking at about a week to 2 weeks to get to where they want to go. Right? Okay? God says, y'all ain't ready for that yet. You ain't ready for that. If you go that way, see, there's military outposts up through here. And every one of them, they had no smoke signals, and they'll send the word back. Hey, all of these folks is coming this way. Let's symbol them. And these folks ain't ready for that kind of fight yet. God's going to take them with that pillar, and he's going to be like, no, we're going to go up here. Now, in my mind, here's what I'm thinking. Because when we talk to ourselves, something we have to get settled within ourselves, and whenever we tell our kids is, sometimes we just got to say, I don't know. Because I can't imagine if this pillar is leading us through, right? And you have to believe some of these folks from Israel, they kind of know where they're going. You know what I'm saying? Got a little bit, okay, I heard the stories. We was in Egypt. These travelers, they went, okay, this is the way that they told us about. Yeah, here's that mountain that they was talking about. Yeah. And when we get up here, man, we're going to break off to the right, and then we're going to be there. Then we get up here, and we take a left. We're like, and I just know how I am. I would be charging to the front of the line, and I'd be like, hey, Moses, where are we going, dog? What? This is, the land of the milk and honey is over here. Not here. And that's, when I think Moses, what he would have said? I don't know. I just know this is the way the pillar is going. I can just tell you that. This is all I know is this is the way the pillar is going. So this is the way that we're going. Reading through this and absorbing this and coming in gives me great peace. Because I know that there's some things that I'm just not going to understand. And that's okay. There's some things I'm not going to be able to give the absolute reason of why this is happening in your life, why this is doing this, and why this changed, why this didn't happen, why you lost this job, why you gained this, why this girl said this, why that dude said, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to tell you that. All I know is that God is leading you. And you keep following him, and you will be in the promised land. This just gives me peace. I don't have to give all the answers. All I got to do is just sit there at memorial before them and then just keep telling it. All I've got to do for myself first is just keep reminding myself, just keep remembering, just keep going back. Just keep going back to that time when God did this. Keep going back whenever God moved in this area. Keep going back whenever. And I was praying in silent. I was in my closet. They couldn't, nobody hear me. I didn't tell them the soul about nothing, but this is what God done. We'll look at that that was under the protection of self. Now we look at the promise kept, and it says in verse number 19, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. Ain't that impressive? Based off of what I've understood, we're probably looking at somewhere around 350, 360 years. Joseph has died. Now we're rolling out of Egypt, right? And I'm thinking, Moses don't know this dude. Moses ain't got no idea. You know, we like to read this and think that it's so quick that somehow it's like Joseph just handed the baton off to Moses, and then Moses goes, oh yeah, I forgot you, bro. You know, go back. But that ain't, you know, he didn't have a clue who this, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the stories, yeah, for sure, but it wasn't like they were, you know, BFFs or nothing like that. But I'm thinking the honor that was given to this man by somebody that didn't know him. And I think of the promise that was kept, even for Joseph, the promise that was kept there for him to take him out of that land. And I got to thinking about some of, you know, within my life, those promises, those things of whenever, you know, it's going to take a while for this to come through, but God's going to come through. When I was looking to get the position that I have at work, and I've told this before, but, you know, I just felt like I could make a difference. I just felt like, man, there were just so many things that I just seen was wrong, and I felt like I knew of a way to change them, and I just really wanted to change them, right? And I prayed for a long time. I was like, Lord, I really need you to elevate. I really need you to put me. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to change. I want to change the culture. I don't want to park up front. I want to change the culture. And it would go, and it just seemed like it wasn't happening. I go to interviews, it wasn't happening. And then finally it got to the point, I was like, Lord, you got to get this off of me then. And that's cool. I'm cool. It's something that's internal. It's all Randall. It's not going to happen. God, I'm good with that. That's fine. But I need you to get this out of me. I can't keep seeing this. I can't keep coming up with these ways of changing it and fixing it. I need you to empty me of that. And it never went away. It just never went. I was like, you remember what I said? I'm dealing with this. I'm asking. I felt like I'm doing the spiritual thing by saying, okay, it was all Randall. It wasn't me. It was, you know what I'm saying? Okay, God, yeah. But it's still in. I was like, okay, so okay, God. I'll be honest with you. Here's what I said. Here's the position I want at my shop. I don't want this spot because it doesn't have enough authority. I don't want this spot because it's too detached from the people. This is the spot right here that I want. This is the guy that you got to move from this spot right here. To the best of my knowledge, I had never heard this guy. I had never heard him ever complain about his job. Never heard him talk about anybody at the shop. Never heard any word, any rumors at all that he might be leaving to go to another job, that he was being recruited from other places. Never heard any of that. So in my mind, this was an immovable source. You know, this guy he wasn't going nowhere, right? But I was like, if this is going to happen, this is how it's going to happen. Several months I prayed that, right? Then I found out that another place that we have, the guy that was over it, he got relieved of duty, and this guy was going to be over there. And I said, that's mine. I remember in the truck that morning, I said, that's mine. That is my spot right there. Went up to the plant manager. I was like, I'd like to, interview for that job. He's like, okay, tomorrow morning. And now at this time, I'm an upholsterer. I come in the next morning, just to know that I took the job serious. I come in the next morning, and I was sitting in, this is the place that I work. Typically, I'd wear shorts, some sort of shirt, that didn't care to get nasty or messed up. I was at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting in the front office. I had on khakis. I had on a button-up shirt, and I had a little thing there with my resume in it. And I was sitting there waiting for him to come in. And he had told me the day before, don't worry about that. I know you got to go back to work. You're going to be. I said, okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. But in my mind, I want you to see somebody different when you look across the table at me. You look across that desk, I don't want you to see somebody that's just out. I want you to see somebody that's serious about what they're doing. Talked to him for about 2 hours, right? Next week, Nothing. And he tells me, he gives me to go, going to interview a few more folks, and we just want to make sure, I said, bro, I get it. I understand. That's no problem. And I tell him the whole thing. Tell him everything about how I've been praying and everything. Next week goes by. I walk into his office. Hey, man, am I still on the board? You're still on the board. Okay, just want to make sure. Week goes by. Hey, man, I'm still on the board? You're still on the board. Thank you, man. Just want to make sure. Week goes by. Hey, man, still on the board? You're still on the board. Another week goes by. And I go in there, and he's like, well, I just want you to know, so, there's been some talk in the upper echelons of the company, and they're concerned about, what it would be like, the atmosphere would be like if you were promoted to such a position over your peers. Do you have enough management experience? Do you have enough leadership skills? Just really feel like it wouldn't work. I could not argue with any of those. They had a very valid point in every argument they had. And I was like, yes, sir, I got you. Get up next morning and sitting in the truck praying. I'm like, God, this just don't make sense. I was like, I just got to be honest with you, Lord. There's just too much in this right here. There's too many things that have just fallen into place for this just to be the end of this. I was like, I can't accept that. There's no way that this is how this is going to go. So the next day, go into his office, go up to the plant manager. I said, I just want you to know, just step into his office. I said, I just want you to know I ain't done praying about this. Shook his hand and walked back out. Now, I knew what I wanted to do. Eventually, I wanted to get to the top man within the company, but I was going to do it the right way. I wanted to go through from my boss's boss to his boss, and then, I was going to have an interview with everybody. Got in. I was like, I like to talk to the next guy. He's like, yes, sir, no problem. I'll set it up. Come in, and the first thing, he sits down in front of me. He's like, Randall, just here's our problems, here's our issues, here's what we're thinking, And I said, yes, sir. I said, I totally understand. I was like, but here's the way I see it. That's not out there on that sign. That's not Bernhardt. That's Norman. I come into this spot. Everything that goes out there is going to have my name on it. Here's where I see things going. Here's how my plan for fixing things. It wasn't just this, like I say, it wasn't just this some sort of impulsive act of, hey, I want an office and I want to, I had a plan. Here's what we're going to do, man. Here's how I'm going to fix this. And here's how I've been praying. And here's how this is going to go. He said, you know what? He said, let me think about that. He said, you're causing me to want to rethink that. He said, let me think about that. I said, okay, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Now, I done decided. He comes back and he's like, yeah, it's a negative. It's like, okay, I would like to talk to your boss. Well, he was going to the top with it, man. I was going to get no's from everybody. But I felt like I'd already had a yes from the number one. So eventually somebody was going to tell me yes. A couple days later, I've left work, get a phone call from the manager. It's like, hey, man, can you come by about 4:30? Now, I know that if I get there at 4:30, it's called the rest of the plan is open. I was like, yes, I can. Because you about to offer me that job. Come in, and sure enough, that's what he did. Oh, and I had in my mind, it's like, okay, here's the money that I need to make. And he, made the offer, and it's like, he brought me the offer. It's like, it's on the money. It was on the money, right? And I'm not talking about I sold myself short, like, okay, if we pay just half of this bill and we pay just half of that one, and we just do principal only on this one, we can get by with just this. No, I was like, no, we got to live. And I got to pay bills, but Daddy like to eat good sometimes. So it's going to take a little bit more than just what it takes to do it. So here's a number. Come in, bam, exact number. I find out several months later that when I had spoken to that second gentleman, he told me, he's like, when I come out of that office, he said, I walked straight into the plant manager's office and said, that's our guy. And then I went straight to my boss and said, that's our guy. And I told all of y'all, that's my guy. He done told me this was mine. He done give me this. I knew this was going to be mine. These were promises that were kept. It was a desire that was within me, and I love what I do. I never thought I'd be able to say that I love what I do. I've had this job now for over 4.5 years, and I love every day. Even though this was Hell Week, I know I started it off a little strange, but I still love what I do. I still love being able to go through and influence and help people and make decisions and try to make changes that make it that change the culture. Not just that, I want to change the culture. I tell them all the time, I don't have anything to do with what kind of fabric comes on a piece of furniture. If this style's easy or if it's style, like I said, there ain't nothing I can do. I don't order. But I can make sure that the atmosphere is one of where you may not want to come. I don't want to go to work. I mean, and I love my work. I love my work. But if somebody out there would decide to give Daddy $1 million, I'm calling in tomorrow. Y'all, man, for 2 weeks, you can just plan on not seeing me, and that's my notice. But here's the thing. Most folk may not want to work, but nobody should hate going to work. That's my job. That's my job, is to make sure that the atmosphere is for people, they don't hate coming to work. These are promises that were kept. These are all things. Listen, I'm telling you, this is all fresh, man. I'm telling you, just this is me in the flesh. Just to end it like this, in verse number 21, and the Lord went before them by a pillar. I'll just jump through this. So there was a pillar, column of fire, right, that led them by night. And then somehow or another, that column was like a cloud during the day. I've been told that it kept them at a perfect 72 degrees. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I've been told. And whenever I'm reading it, I'm thinking, then this is just, some of Randall's mind. And I'm thinking, I just can't help but wonder if maybe on that first or second night, if there wasn't some Jewish women that got up out of bed, throwed on the robe, and was walking around that pillar looking for the thermostat. How do we turn this thing up? I just wonder if that didn't happen. And then there was some Jewish guy come on. It's like, what are you doing messing with the thermostat? Can't you just leave this stuff alone? These are just some of my gleanings, some of the things. These are promises that were kept. It's how He protects us from ourselves when He leaves. When we want to go a certain way, and He says, no, here's the way you're going to go. You're like, God, I really want to go this way. Nope, this is the way we're going to go. Why? I don't know, but you will know. You just keep following. Promises that are kept. Power that is revealed. What He will do to release you. The love that He has for you. And purifying of our homes. Thank you very much, Pastor.